What's up, everyone? My name is Jimmy with Swiss Realty here. I'm an investor agent here in the Columbus, Ohio area. I help investors find their next buy and hold, BRRRR, flip, short-term, midterm rental, or any investment property in this case. In today's video, we are going to go over this question I get very, very often, and I'm going to give you the pros and the cons so you can kind of see all the different perspectives when it comes to answering this question. The question for today's video is, should you rent to Section 8 or should you do Section 8 when it comes to your rental property? So the brief answer, or the answer in summary, is it's not a black or white answer. There's a lot of pros and a lot of cons when it comes to each answer that we're going to explore today, okay? So the reason why is because I'm sure you've heard of stories where a lot of Section 8 tenants have gone really bad and, they've trashed the house, and you've heard of other ones where Section 8 rentals, they're hitting the 2% rule, they're cash flowing like crazy. So again, it's really to each owner, and there's no right or wrong answer, okay? So it's not a black or white answer. There's going to be pros and cons in each situation, no matter which answer you kind of go with. So in the first answer we're going to go with, so the pros of Section 8 rentals. So the first pro when it comes to a Section 8 rental is, number one, you are always guaranteed rent on time. The reason why is because Section 8 is paid by the government. It's not paid by someone. So because of that, there's no miss or late rent payments that you're ever going to have to deal with. And on top of that as well, too, the government's going to pay on time every time. It's a very smooth and easy, process when it comes to dealing with tenants. Second thing, I will always want to let my clients know is that when it comes to dealing with Section 8 rentals, you typically will have better cash flow than if it's just a normal standard long-term rental. The reason why is because Section 8 typically pays a lot better than standard long-term rentals. So what I mean by that is when you're charging rent for your Section 8 rentals, you just have to be within the range for market rents, okay? So let's say we're looking at a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, single-family house. And let's say if it's a standard long-term rental in this situation, let's say market rents is $1,200 a month. So when it comes to Section 8 rentals, you typically can get away with the upper echelon of the market rent range. So what I mean by that is, instead of $1,200 a month, you can typically get away with $1,400 a month because it's still considered fair market rent in this situation. Obviously, there's a calculator where you can run all the numbers. You can make sure everything makes sense, which again I can link in the bottom of this YouTube video. But again, I will let you know when it comes to Section 8 rentals, typically you can charge a little bit more than fair market rents, but as long as it's still reasonable. So again, with $1,200 a month in market rent, you can typically get away with like $1,300, $1,400 a month. I will let you know if you're trying to charge like $2,000 a month. Obviously, that's not fair market rent. You're not going to get that approved. But if it's within reasonable range, it will still work out. And because of that, you typically will get significantly better cash flow than a normal standard long-term rental. And then the third pro I would say when it comes to dealing with Section 8 rentals is that you're going to have access to a much bigger pool of potential tenants. And because you have a lot more tenants that are applying to your property, it's going to be way easier to find a tenant and essentially get someone renting from your property as soon as possible. Obviously, one of the biggest costs when it comes to owning a property is vacancies, because that's just eating up your cash flow. You're paying the mortgage out of pocket yourself, and the best way to get a property that is going to be successful is you want to find a tenant ASAP. So because of that, Section 8 will help with that, and you will have access to much more tenants in this situation. So those are the pros I would say when it comes to Section 8 rental, when it comes to doing Section 8 rentals. So we're going to look at some cons now, okay? So the first con I would say is there's an annual CMHA inspection. So what that means is the government is going to send an inspector once a year to your property, and he's going to have this huge list of pretty much everything that your property needs to, all the regulations and all the making sure that your property looks good. And if it doesn't, he's going to do a ton of check boxes. And then at the end of the inspection, he's going to present you with this list of everything that needs to be fixed. If you, the landlord, decides, hey, look, I don't want to fix it at all, then you're not going to qualify for any more Section 8 rents. They're not going to pay you out anymore, and you're not going to get any more rents moving forward afterwards. So because of that, you do have to do these repairs once a year, and you have to deal with this inspection period. It's a little frustrating sometimes because, again, they might mark you off for a lot of minor things that you're just going to have to make repairs for. But again, this is part of the CMHA process. Second thing is, sometimes, again, this is not every time, and obviously it varies based on tenant to tenant, of course, but sometimes you may be dealing with a little bit more turnover if the tenants move out. The reason why I say that is because if, let's say, again, not every tenant, but sometimes if a tenant is like, hey, I'm not the one paying for rent, it's the government paying for rent. If they see that, they'll be like, okay, because of that, I can kind of rough up the house a little bit more. I can not abuse it, but I can, I don't care too much about the condition of the property because I'm not the one who's liable for this property, and it's the government paying for rent, not me. So because of that, if the tenants do decide to move out, you may be dealing with a little bit more turnover required. And because of that, it might be a little dirtier. It might need a little bit more cosmetic updating. Again, this is not every time. I personally own Section 8 rentals, and I've had amazing tenants so far. So again, this is not, every time. And there's been situations where I've heard of, this happening. So again, not every time. And this is not a rule of thumb or anything like that. And then the very last con I would say is typically when it comes to dealing with Section 8, the process of changing ownership may take a while. So let's say like you're buying a Section 8 rental or something like that, or you're starting to do Section 8 for the first time ever. Paperwork does take a little bit of time to deal with because a lot of times when it comes to Section 8, they're very backlogged, and because of that, it might take a little bit of time before you can do an ownership change form or a rent increase form. Or if you're starting Section 8 for the first time, it might take a bit for someone to get like their Section 8 voucher. So because of that, you should understand that the process, it's not going to be very, very quick. It might take a little bit of time before you get everything up and running as well too. But aside from that, those are the pros and cons. And as you can kind of see, it's not a black or white answer. There's good, there's bad when it comes to Section 8. And at the end of the day, if you have a great property manager and I would say a great investor agent who's done Section 8, has owned Section 8 rentals themselves, they can kind of hold your hand throughout the entire process and can kind of consult with you on what you should, what you shouldn't do in this situation. But aside from that, hopefully my goal from this video was to give you a overview on the pros and the cons of Section 8 and help you understand that it's not a black or white answer when it comes to Section 8 and whether you should do it or not. If you have any other questions, I would love to answer them. Let me know. Make sure to post a comment, or if you have any questions, make sure to write them below in this video. But aside from that, just to recap off real quick, my name is Jimmy with Swiss Realty. I'm an investor agent here. I've done over $18 million in terms of sales in the last 60 months, and I would love to help you find your next buy and hold, BRRRR, flip, short-term, midterm rental, or any investment property. If you're interested in working with me, make sure to reach out and I'll be happy to help. But aside from that, thank you so much for taking time to watch this video. Really appreciate you guys, and looking forward to seeing you guys again very soon. Thank you.